Today we answer the question, how do I price web design? Ari and I are going to discuss different ways of doing this. And live on air, I'm going to help Ari price out a project. Stick around, watch us work. Welcome to episodio número 4 of season 2. If you're paying attention on iTunes, that's about episode 54. I am your host, Jose Caballero, Chief Educator of digital agency The Group. Joining me always is Ari Guimon, who's a Creative Director Extraordinaire, Freelance Creative Director. Today we're going to answer a really interesting and difficult question. How do I price web design? We're going to answer the following questions. How should I charge? Flat fee or hourly rate? Should I charge? How do I calculate my hourly rate? And how do I price a team? If I am growing and now I need to do it, Ari, which you are,
right,
how do I actually price a team?
Yep.
How are you, Ari?
I'm doing good. It's great to be here as always.
Remind me to breathe during the show.
No worries.
Just go, Jose, breathe. So if you want to join us during the show at any time live, you can join us on Justin TV/This Weekend, and you can ask questions. You can also join us via Twitter. I'm monitoring that right now. And also, of course, always on Facebook after the show, facebook.com/This Week in Web. No, actually, This Week in Web, yeah, I think that's what it is. Our Twitter is This Week in Web. You get them all confused. There's so many of them. Awesome. So if you're joining us for the first time, this show is to help you accelerate your web design career by teaching you creative business, technology, and marketing secrets from our experts. And I share my 15 years of experience doing web design. Some of you might just be looking to learn CSS or HTML really quick or install a WordPress template. Please go to lynda.com right here below me, or Team Treehouse, both of which I'm subscribed to, and they have amazing video tutorials. Again, lynda.com or Team Treehouse. Now, if you are one of the following people, if you're a student in design and development, in business, anything that, and you're looking to get into web design and get a job and to work, this show's for you. If you're a freelancer, either a developer or a designer, and you have a mustache, and you want to make more money, you don't have to have a mustache, girls and boys. If you're a freelancer, please watch the show. The entrepreneur, this show is for you. Whether you're an executive thinking of doing a startup or you're already on your third startup, second startup, this show's for you. How to do a web business. And finally, the career switcher, and today I was listening on NPR to a great story about the shift in demographics of careers between men and women. If you're a career switcher, this show's for you and you want to get into web design. If you've watched previous episodes, this show is time boxed into half an hour. This is a concept from Scrum. Time boxing is brought to you by Chrometa, which helps you track all of your time without notes or without a timer. So even though we're using a timer, Chrometa actually doesn't use a timer. And they've been featured in The Economist, Forbes, Web Worker Daily, Inc. magazine, and it's one of my favorite things to use on a daily basis. Ari, I always ask you, what is it that you use Chrometa for?
I use Chrometa to track everything that I do, pretty much. You know, when I'm working, I always have it. It's got a little icon on the top of the screen. I don't know if, well, the folks that have it installed can see it.
I have it. It's got a little clock in the top.
It's got a little clock. You know, you can stop it and start it whenever you want. The great thing is, it's always in the background running, and then you can go to their site and check your logs. It'll tell you pretty much everything you've done. So, you know,
it's great.
Just turn it off if you're doing anything crazy, but right. Other than that,
turn it off when you're going to commit some online crimes. All right. So the first 5-minute chunk to go right into it it's called the basics. In Spanish, that is básico.
Lo básico.
Lo básico. And again, the question, to repeat it, how do I price web design? And we put together some examples, and we did a lot of work actually for this episode to make sure that you get as much value as possible. The first question, Ari, is how do I charge? Do I charge a flat rate for a project? Or do I do an hourly rate? And let me start our timer here. It's a 5-minute timer. So here's some top-line bullet points, Ari, and cut me off or join me in any of these questions. Yep. Either way is fine, as long as you consider, and if we bring up the title card, I can actually read it from there. Charge for your time, and you can increase your prices based on your ideas. Yep. You know, I've got, pay attention to the project management triangle, and I'll bring up that triangle. That's time, scope, and money. Time, scope, and money. Either way, whether you do it flat fee or whether you do it time is fine, as long as your flat rate takes into consideration the hours you spend.
I think
you don't want to charge like, go ahead.
No, I think that's a really good point. It also depends on what the client's comfortable with. Some clients won't be comfortable with an hourly ongoing. They'll just be
They want a
comfortable.
fixed fee.
They want a fixed
Right.
fee, exactly.
And that's we're going to talk more about in detail. And finally, the last bullet point for this, which is the next one on this sequence, is consider. You were just saying it. Consider the client size and budget.
Right.
We, meaning the group, we charge usually fixed fees based on hours with variable scope. That's tricky, and people are going to be like, what does that mean? I'll explain what that means very briefly. That means that we calculate how much a project is going to be based on figuring out what the effort is for it, and then we allow or we ask for the client if it's okay to vary the scope, slightly. The variance might be 10%, 15%, so that we're not stuck into a project. Now, if you're the producers program, which you see right here, the This Week in Web Design producers program, we just did our first call. And they actually had the ability to go through with me, and they had questions about pricing, and
Nice.
I send them examples. Only if you join the producers program. If you go to This Week in Web Design, thisweekinwebdesign.com, you can find out more about the producers program. And we have some amazing producers. You can see them scrolling there, which we stole from Stephen Colbert.
And you help us decide what the shows are about.
They also help us decide what the shows are about every week, and as well as everybody else in the public. I ask everybody, but I do weigh the answers from the producers program a little bit heavier. So we're time boxed, and we only have 2 more minutes. So here, how do I calculate my hourly rate? That's the next. How do I calculate my hourly rate? Okay, I'm going to show you an example later, but here's the basics. Add up your monthly expenses. In an aspirational way if you'd like. Include 10% of savings. If you'd like to do 10% for emergency fund, fine. Include 40% for taxes. The rate is about 35%. Keep in mind, this is not constitute advice. Please consult your tax and financial advisor. Word. Who wrote that?
Word.
Divide by 160, which is the hours you can work in a week, a 40-hour week, and you have your hourly rate. We'll show you that in a second. Finally.
And there are guidelines for that.
There are guidelines. Actually, in the guidelines, this is a great book, and we'll talk about a little bit about that in the example. And this is the Designer's Guide to Pricing and Estimating and Budgeting. And there's a more recent edition of this book, but you can find it on Amazon. Or there are links right here below in YouTube. If you're watching the show on YouTube, you can go to the link that's there for you. Finally, how do I price a team? Well, how do I price a team? Number one, identifying the resources and the rate, how much they cost, full-time or freelance resources. Work to estimate effort with the client, either before you sign a contract, or we'll show you or talk a little bit about how to do that after you sign a contract. Sell the project to the team, and don't sell like, hey, I need you to do development. Really, what's the project about? Is it interesting, right? Hey, this is cool. And choose people based on whether they like or have affinity to a particular project type.
Exactly.
Do your homework, do your homework, do your homework. Who's the client, who's the resource, etc. And finally, no matter what, even if it's a fixed fee with the resource or with the client, track the time that it's taking. That's how you're going to measure whether you're actually, if you say I'm going to take 100 hours to do a project, you don't track your time, you don't know how much time you spent. You're going to be frustrated. How have you experienced
That's a really good
that?
point. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. And one thing that I wanted to add to, and something that I'm struggling with right now, is how do you, for example, if you sell a project to a client but you're not actually doing the hands-on work, how do you mark up the resources that you're using, and how do you pad the hours so that you end up making a profit as well?
We're going to cover that right during the example. So in the last 30 seconds of this time box segment, here the top line, the three summaries of the three things that we just went over right now. If we bring up my screen, number one summary is hours times rate equals your budget. Rate equals service plus experience times output. Does that make sense? The level of service plus the experience times the output. Like, what actually are you able to deliver as a resource? Some people can deliver a lot really fast. Guess what? You can pay them more and still get the same amount of output. The second summary is very simple. There's only 40 hours